No, yeah, it's got a big alarm. No, I saw it happen on Friday.
They did, just not at Quinn's house. I came back and there was like poison everywhere.
I do not really like it.
He was not pleased.
Cool, they're outside my house. In my
I don't wanna see them at all. Bad chair,
Anyway.
bad mic.
I promise I don't disrespect this position at all. All right, it's 6 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Van will not be with us tonight, and we already know that Mike was not available for tonight, so. I think we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, yes? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the clerk will please take the roll.
Nicole Holt, Present. Gil Klein,
Here.
Brad Lutz.
Yes.
Arvid Mackey,
Present.
Ron Peters.
Here. Clerk will note we have a quorum present, 5 members, 2 absent. All right, next item on the agenda. Does anybody have a copy of it in front of them? Because I didn't pull one up. I think it's to approve the agenda. So I will take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Neil.
Second.
No, I don't have a copy. There's a motion by Neil and a second by Ron to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item 3, other business, discussion and possible action regarding 3A, the 2026 budget work session.
Yeah, so tonight we're kind of finalizing where we're at with the budget to get our notice in the paper for next week to have the public hearing on November 20th at 6 p.m. That would be a special meeting for the budget hearing that we would have. On that sheet, which would be published in the paper next week. Is it 2 weeks in a row it has to be published?
Yeah.
So it'd be in the paper for 2 weeks. As you can see, this is an overview of every department of the revenue and the expenditures. We are seeing in our budget that we're proposing a 0.4% decrease in our expenditures. So staff has been very diligent in what they're looking at for their expenditures and how to keep the budget down. With that, if you look at the revenues, we are seeing a decrease in certain areas of our revenues. There is no land sale for next year to fill the gap that we currently have, which led to a significant kind of shortfall, you would say, not really a shortfall, but just a discrepancy in the expenditures to revenues to keep our current service levels where they are at. With that, I'm just kind of giving you a big overview of the budget and where we're at with it. We are proposing that we use, where's my?
36,000.
Thank you. $36,000 from the general fund to help balance the budget. And within there would be a short-term borrow of $295,000 to balance the budget. And that would be paid off in February. We see this as really the only way to create a fully balanced budget with being financially responsible with where we've been within the constraints of our budget too. With that, I will take any questions that you have. As staff, we really have trimmed as much as we possibly can. If you go through the budget that was presented to you, everything was pretty much at zero or decreased. A few things that did have increases were we are now fully staffed police department again with a new SRO position that did raise our that budget item for the police. With that, there are some other costs that we do incur within the police budget that are just have to happen, such as vest replacement, equipment replacement, other items when you have more people on staff. So that is one area that we did increase, but that was anticipated as the board did approve the new SRO position in June. Any other comments or questions? Tanny and I are here tonight to answer any questions that you might have. Other than that, at the end of tonight, we'll be looking for a recommendation to go forward with the budget presented.
So I know there was some early talk about maybe transferring some capital or some items that could be capital from general into capital. Was that done?
That, in this budget, that is still done that way, yes.
And then what was sacrificed in the capital?
We have yet to approve the capital project items.
How much was that amount approximately?
160,000.
These are maintenance items, right? Coming from the capital improvement plan?
Small equipment maintenance, small equipment purchases, those items that would be listed in the budget would be moved then to the capital borrow. The idea is we hope we can get out of that in the future. However, as a short-term solution, we see that as an opportunity of an area that we can currently have without increasing even more taxes to the residents.
Is that different than the line item that says maintenance and equipment borrow then?
No, that is that.
So
That
it's
is that.
150, 950 is the amount.
Got it. So that is the amount that we're
Is
pulling
the-
from the CIP, because I know that, I think 2 years ago, we approved a board action indicating that we would levy additional dollars using some
We did a
sort of a,
borrow.
Yeah, we did a borrow for that.
We did a borrow for that.
yeah. Okay, I was worried that that was still present, so
But that was-
I don't think, I mean, kudos to finally hitting zero, which is nice. I'm not a huge fan of the 295 short-term borrow. But I honestly have seen the amount of pain and struggle that we've been moving through to try to balance this, and some of this is our own doing. I mean, we approved an SRO. We felt it was important enough for the community. And I'm honestly prepared to leverage the hiring of an SRO as one of the major indicators about why we're looking to do that maintenance borrow, or not the maintenance borrow, but the short-term borrow. We have heard from our residents that they would appreciate closer to round-the-clock staffing with our police department. And though they were not willing to fund public works and public safety in a referendum, we have an opportunity here to respond to their request to have better staffing and borrow to help offset that cost that we did to fully staff our police department. Remember, one of the things we did do too is that we also, we changed our pay structure for the police department, made it more aggressive, put a top rate out there that nobody else has around us. And that was in an effort to recruit, to bring people in. So we are now going to be fully staffed, but we have to pay for it. And so that's part of it.
Yep.
There were two things that kind of popped into my mind as I was going over some strategies that I think that we could be using to help close this annual gap that we seem to have. It's always 250 to 400, looks like, every year. It's unfortunate that we can't count on land sale, and we're also running out of land to sell. Obviously, another strategy is growing the tax base, which, hopefully these projects we've been working on the last couple of years are gonna bear fruit and enlarge the tax base a bit. It'll also help us with our, what's this term that the state always annual equalized value? Is that the number or that?
Net new construction.
Net new
Thank you.
construction is, it's your new construction in a given
Yeah.
year.
But two of the things that popped into my mind, and I just wanted to kind of bounce this out to the rest of the folks here at the table to see what your thoughts are for it. Number one, and I'll explain each one after I lay them out there, but the first one is a hiring freeze for 26. The second one is a hours flex for overtime incurred. So for the first one, hiring freeze. So if we experience a position available within the village staff in 2026, that we would freeze and not replace that until after we've completed the budget for 27. So that'd be one of the things. The other thing I'm looking at, just asking for you guys to weigh in on, is working back overtime. So if anybody incurs overtime in the year of 2026, they would flex their schedule so that they don't incur it, or if they incur it on the last day of the period, that we would ask them to flex it in a future period so that we can land on budget wages wise. So thoughts on those two things?
Do we have an idea on what the overtime overrun is approximately between the departments? I know that there's probably a lot in public works if there's a heavy snow year, right? Probably some in policing, probably not much in water, sewer.
Depends on if there's a main break on a weekend.
Yeah, water and sewer would only be if there's an emergency. Public Works is generally for heavy snowfall years, would be overtime. Police were looking to end that by, we extended a job offer to a part-time employee. So making sure that the hours are filled within or from the part-time employee and not allowing overtime to happen. We do understand though, like a few years ago, there was a case that had heavy man hours that required overtime. There are some extenuating circumstances
Right.
that might have to be looked at too
Right.
for the public safety aspect of it.
So what's the size of the overtime prize though? Like I'm not opposed, I'm just chewing through like, how much money, if we were to do that, would we save? I think that's what I really want. I'm intrigued by that, and I'm ready also to talk about the hiring freeze idea too, so I don't want to lose that in this discussion, but if we're talking about overtime for now.
Probably anywhere from 10 to 20,000 in a given year between police and public works.
Yeah, it's not nothing. Like,
No,
it's
it's-
definitely something that if we're tightening the belt,
Yeah.
trying to balance a budget, and
Yep.
then also not taking any action on overtime that occurs, like, there are things we can do to manage
I
that.
agree.
You know, like, if somebody gets called in overnight on a Tuesday, take Wednesday off.
And we as staff are still looking for other revenue streams too, that other communities might be using in ways that we can implement them.
Yeah.
I do know that I'm still looking at the idea of safety sticks, not paid parking, the safety sticks feature. They'll be coming back to the village board to discuss that too. So that can help with citation levels, making sure that parking is being properly enforced in no parking areas. And other areas of other just, they're not major revenue makers, but $5,000 to $10,000 a year, but
Yeah.
something to help kick out a little bit too.
It's just one other thing to consider with the overtime thing. I like the idea as well, but I think there's union contracts to deal with. That's all specified.
Yeah, we would have to operate within contract for sure. Yep. I mean, as far as I understand, the biggest thing with union contract is guaranteed hours. Like, you know, we have a certain amount of hours that everybody's guaranteed
Yeah, there's-
employed every year, but we certainly don't need to offer any more than that.
and the police contract, there's nothing about guaranteed overtime hours. It just states that if you're overtime, you're paid at a certain rate.
Right.
With that, we can definitely ask the police to make sure that, first, make sure that you go to your part-time budget, and once your part-time budget's gone, it's gone. And then not to, if you do that, then people have to realize that we would not have 24-hour coverage.
That's right. There's gonna be that speaks to the lessening service, because you can either cut expenses or you can lessen service. Like, those are your two ways to shave the budget. So,
And for the police, it's much easier during the day when we have Andrew in the office and someone doesn't come in because it's not.
pinch it, yeah.
But he can
Yeah.
help.
A lot of the police overtime comes from like the extension of a 12-hour shift though. an
Mhm.
accident,
Exactly.
Or they come in.
Have to run
for-
someone to
Yeah,
Appleton,
yeah,
yep.
exactly. Or they come in for court and they get 4 hours pay minimum or 2 hours pay, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's not like,
Yeah, on their off day, they get paid time and have to come into court. Yep.
But I think that to me strikes me, this budget still strikes me as we're doing more than we can afford. And I think that the overtime idea is a way to rein in what we can do. And the reality is we just can't absorb those costs in the way that we have before. And I think that I banged on about this a lot at the last meeting, and I don't need to completely do that again. But I think that, you know, to your point, Brad, if you're over, you're taking the day because we can't absorb that cost.
Yeah,
And
and
that's just I like that because I think it's naturally scaling. So if there's a lot of things going on, it's going to happen more. If it's been a quiet couple weeks, and it's not going to happen as much, but it introduces a level of cost control that, to your point, we are currently exercising. So
Yeah, and to Devin's point about, you know, there are certain periods where, I lost my train of thought, sorry. I'll come back to it when I think about it. Some additional things with regard to that too, from an overtime standpoint, is that if we experience a situation like we did in the winter of 22, we're gonna get a little bit of forgiveness, I think, in the fact that, and again, I mean, what was the total impact of additional snow plowing? I mean, $50,000 maybe. It was
I'm trying to remember
literally
the budget,
over
what it
2
was.
months. Like, it's not like it's a 12-month pervasive issue. So, yeah, so I remembered my point again. So Devin had talked about how if we're in an overtime situation with the police department, they have their part-time budget to look at, and once that's exhausted, it's gone. I posit that we actually, starting from the top down, try to get everyone on board with the premise that it's not just about your department, it's about the village as a whole. So if you can give something back, you give it back. It's not, I get mine, you get yours, and I'm not gonna help anybody else but myself. It needs to be, I'm helping the village. And so that's, I think, a more important thing to realize here is that some departments may feel that pain, some might feel like it's an unfair weight to bear because they don't have overtime. Devin doesn't have overtime. He just gets paid a wage. So, he doesn't give anything back. But there are hourly employees that may have that situation. So anyway, that was my other point on that. So
I'll add to that and say that we've gotten into a habit here, and I'm guilty too of the police department or public works or whoever running under budget till the end of the year. And then the last couple of months, they say, hey, I have 12,000 extra. I'd like to spend it on this. Well, I mean, it's great to get what you need and when you need it, because you have to have it, right? But if that wasn't identified and it happens to be a cost savings, and we can carry that over, we need to start doing that. Like, we can't just say, yep, you're right. I mean, we're not punishing people for not spending the money, but say, like you said, they're not hiring someone for 6 months or a year, or a purchase didn't come through that was anticipated. That savings should be held on to. We need to do, I think, a better job at not saying, yeah, you can spend 6 of the 12,000 that you have left. on
Yeah,
this,
yeah, and it shouldn't be about punishing them for coming in under budget, like, because I know that that's probably how the department heads are gonna feel, like, well, hey, I came in under what I estimated and all I got was less. Yes, but the village wins. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's not just about your budget, it's about the entire village budget as a whole. So if everybody contributes towards making this deficit go away, that's what we need, and so recognizing those individuals, that they're not just a singular entity, they're a part of a whole. And I think that's the bigger part of it. Thoughts on a hiring freeze?
I think that we made, frankly, the SRO decision without a lot of the information that we should have had in front of us when we made that decision. I think I still maybe would have voted to make it, because I think that there is an interest in the community and priority on that. But I am entirely supportive of that. And I think you could do it in a way where, like, let's, if you have a natural attrition, somebody leaves.
Exactly, that's what I was
Then,
talking
yep,
about.
yeah. And I think a standing approach of, like, okay, we've had attrition in this role. We're not going to replace it until we're in a budget cycle, so that we retain the opportunity to say, and that's like an ongoing
financial
annual thing,
choice,
to make a
yes.
financial choice,
Yep.
and to say, like, okay, police department, you had someone leave. You're not going to fill it. We're going to consider that when it's time to do the budget, or public works, or utilities, or whoever. And I think that will cause us to look at additional headcount in the broader context of the budget. Because what happened with the SRO position is we just said yes. And the justification that was given was, well, we've been under budget for the last 2 years. And so we didn't wrestle with the, like, structural change that hire represented. And now we are, but it's too late. Like, it's much harder now to make that choice.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anybody wants to let a police officer go. So I really think that that's an important thing for us to consider, to make sure that when we are talking about hiring in an environment where we are structurally mismatched to what we're trying to do, a new person is a huge decision to take, and it's got to be taken in the context of our overall organizational budget.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't, I don't even know how, it can't be really expressed in terms of a written policy per se, because ultimately the board is the entity that makes the decision to extend an offer to an applicant in any capacity. I just think I just wanted to take the temperature of the room to see what you thought about, maybe saying, hey, if we experience an opening in a department, should we hold off until August or September before filling, just to see where the budget's landing? Who knows? We might come into some opportunity to sell something as a village in January, February, March, first quarter, second quarter, where we pad the coffers by $300,000. All of a sudden now, yeah, if we experience some turnover, we can fill it because we know we're probably gonna have an easier time balancing the budget.
But it puts that decision, I mean, my ultimate gripe here, and this is not a dig at any of the work that's been done, because I know it's been really hard. But I don't see us matched to our reliable income. I still don't. We are still borrowing, is it 295 extra? That's the
Yeah,
answer.
we have a fundamental mismatch.
We have a
of-
fundamental mismatch.
It's actually closer to 400 when you consider the taking of the money
Yeah,
from
the capital plan.
exactly.
And like a $400,000 mismatch is not going to be solved by a land sale. It's going to be solved by not doing things or getting more money every year.
That's right.
And I think that I up to this point have not believed this firm enough and had enough background to really be able to like pound on the table the way that I am, but it is just true. And so I think anything that delays spending causes it to come to us and forces us
Critical thinking.
to
Yep.
think about its impact on the structure of our budget, because honestly, we probably should have had, and I think the SRO is a great example, where we want to offer an important service. We made that choice without thinking hard about what it meant for the
Yeah.
head
I
count
think
of
one
this
of the most
place.
unexpected expenses related to that was the vehicle expense.
Mhm.
I'm still torn about that. Like, that's unfortunate that we don't do any cost share on the vehicle.
No, I
That's
agree.
just,
That's
Mhm.
unheard
Mm.
of. And secondly, moving forward too, I mean, I know that there's a lot of, thought put into the budget and that things are conservative and things like that, but I personally wouldn't want to see potential budget items huge, like we talked about with the possible grant and something else, relying on that income for $90,000. That should be a bonus. Hey, we got that. We're going to see a cost savings, right?
Yeah.
yeah, that's a
Now,
methodology.
you
We've been
thing.
yeah.
treating it as reliable annual income.
Yeah,
And it's not.
I'd rather be conservative in that aspect too, and unless we have it, it's not counted.
Yeah, and we're not at that point yet. Like, we can't even afford ourselves the ability to be that conservative yet,
Right.
just because if that's another 90, we would have to come up with that. And as it is, I mean, what the average house value in Osceola now is probably 3, right?
A little less still.
Yeah.
We're looking right now at about $60 per $100,000.
Yeah, 60 per 100. So if you got a $300,000 house, next year, the village portion of the taxes is going to go up by $185.
I think it's like
So-
250, 275 for the average home.
Yeah, so figure 150. $150 is gonna get added to the average home next year based on the fact that we are doing a short-term borrow to balance this budget. And, a lot of that's gonna go to pay for some of the decisions that we've made. And so we will have to answer to the taxpayers, myself included. My tax bill for 25 last December when I got it, because you get it for Christmas every year, which is the biggest ironic joke in the world in Wisconsin. Like, why does that come the week before Christmas? But $4,000 on my place, and now it's going to be $4,150. So it's just, that's the reality of where things are at. Now, I did talk to the chair of the school board earlier today, and it sounds like without any projects that the school is currently working on and no referendums for operating revenue or facilities, they have a cap on their levy just like we do. And so things are dropping off, debt dropping off, they paid off debt. And so the levy that is attached to paying off that debt goes away. And so they can no longer levy. So their mill rate is actually dropping again next year. It's going to go down a little bit. Now, it's not going to go down to the degree that it'll offset what we're doing, but it will offset it a little bit. I think it's a 2% decrease. So again, using the same calculations, $16 per 100,000. So you're going to see maybe a $30, $40 reduction in the school portion of the taxes, where ours will go up. So don't know where the county, and the tech school is such a small percentage, it's a little slice of the pie anyway, but I don't know where the county's at, but I did see that they posted in the Sun their required budget, and they are looking at a budget that's bigger this year than next year than it is for this year. Not much, but a little bit. So I'm okay with the way things are laid out, but But to Neil's point, we should be having important conversations all year long with the budget in mind. Because, and those two things that I brought up, I think are two things that there are probably more. Devin brought up additional revenues. And I think that it would be a good idea for this group to really have a listening ear when an opportunity for a revenue stream is brought forth. And you should always be coming at it from a, how will it help the village? Instead of coming at it from a, no one's gonna like this approach. Like you can't set policy, you can't run the village like that. You can't run it from fear. Like that's just not gonna help anybody. If there's opportunity out there, explore the opportunity with an open mind instead of making the decision before the topic actually comes to the table. Because that just doesn't help anybody. So.
I'm going to weigh in just briefly here. Now, I understand we have a mismatch. I applaud you coming forward with thoughts on how we might address that. But I fear the implication that if somebody leaves and we don't replace them, that says we didn't really need them to start with. So maybe we should be looking at our staffing right now and identify who we want to leave. And I can't think of anybody who is not currently essential. So that feels like a problem to me.
Yeah, I thought about that. I
also
thought
feel
about that
a
too.
Similar way about the overtime. You know, if the guys that are plowing overnight, we tell them they can't come in the next day and it snows again, what are we setting ourselves up for?
Right.
You know,
It's good points.
And I think that, like, something's beeping. I think that the closet is beeping. I'll wait until the closet's
It's a-
done beeping.
It's a auxiliary power unit,
Mm.
battery backup.
I think, Arvid, to your point, like that's the impossible situation that we are fundamentally in. Is that
absolutely.
we and I think, I mean, to be honest, like I understand why staff is proposing this approach. I think that ultimately a lot of the changes that have been made, I'm bothered by it because it does not, to me, it does not feel like we're making progress on the structural issue.
Yep.
And it's causing me to really not want to support this because we're kind of kicking the can, but now we're kicking the can and saying that we're kicking the can, which is a step in the right direction. But what the hell are we going to do?
Right.
And there is no time like the present to really think concretely about that. And you know, when we kept saying we want the police to be here full time, we want full-time coverage, we were having that discussion without any conversation about what needs to go into it. And any real evaluation of like, what does it mean if we don't have a police officer on call at 1 a.m. for service levels? And are we ready? Like, we've never really balanced that out. To your point, Brad, I think we've all just gone, well, people want that, so we're going to give it to them. And you end up with a budget like this. And so I mean, I don't want to see people leave. I think we have wonderful people, and I think they do really good work. But I also see a budget that can't support it. And when you're stuck in this place, Arvid, to your point, like it's normal in organizations, if you're looking at a situation like this and somebody goes, to say, we're not going to fill it. And it's not because you don't need the person. It's just because you don't have the money to pay for it. And I mean, that would be my argument. Like, I think it's very normal for private sector employers to reduce overhead through attrition and to reduce headcount through attrition. It's not bad enough that they have to do a layoff, but it's bad enough that they can't replace it. And it doesn't mean that what that person was doing wasn't valuable. It doesn't mean that work's not important. It just means we can't afford it. And So I hear that. I'm still supportive of that hiring freeze idea for sure. And I think right now I'm kind of coming down on saying that it doesn't strike me as solving that structural problem, or even if we can't solve it, it doesn't strike me as taking a meaningful step in beginning to solve it. And I'm going to be in Mexico on a honeymoon on the 20th, so this is my one chance to say this, that like, if it were me and this is where we are, I don't think we're making the hard decisions that we have to make right now. And that's tricky. And and if it were me, I think we might be going back to the drawing board about what are we going to do to solve this structural problem. And that is gonna suck.
Yeah, I mean, you think about like 22, we had the departure of our village admin.
Mhm.
And then the interim cost us some money, but less. Okay, it was less. We spent less on that role than we did in previous years. I'm sure Carrie felt the pinch on that. She had she had some help from Fran, who was still with us, and then Fran left at the end of that year that Frank was subbing. And then we had no choice but to replace that because Carrie wasn't trained for what Fran was doing. And we needed somebody that could handle finances. And that's how we ended up with Tanya. So, we've had situations with the police department where we've been running short, and, some of it was market issues. We just, no one could hire a cop 3 years ago. Nobody.
And there's been huge cost savings the last couple of years.
Because of it. Yes. And so it's eased the pressure. The choices that we have made are now going to increase that pressure. And so it bears scrutiny when we think about our staffing levels. Yeah. I'm right with Arvid when we think about what's the impact of potentially not choosing to replace a position right away. Well, I mean, the obvious answer to that is a reduction in service. If it's someone whose role it is to do something, to answer an email, to take a phone call, to respond to something, it's going to take longer, or it may not get done. That grant might not be applied for. That survey may not be done. That call may not be responded to. Like, there are things that are just not going to happen, or they may happen later. And that's the reduction in service side of it. So again, it's the same thing we've been talking about.
And I guess my point, and then I'll shut up, Rhonda, I know you want to say, but my point is that is a choice this community has made,
Helped us make.
knowingly or
Yeah.
unknowingly. That's where we are. And that is a choice that's been forced upon us by the state, which does not allow us to preserve these critical services through flexibility and what we can levy. And so like the streets won't be plowed as quick if that's where in this hypothetical example the
Right.
attrition occurred.
Right.
Or the overtime became a problem.
Or
Right.
the leaves don't get picked up.
Yep. And there is no other choice. There is nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
I
I mean, there's some smart people sitting at the table. And
Yeah.
it's not like
who've done a really good job.
we haven't explored most of those things. So, Nicole, you haven't said much.
I mean, I understand where you're coming from, Arvid, but I don't think it devalues anyone's position to not hire. If they leave,
Part
if
of
they
my point
leave.
was, if we feel we can survive even half a year without somebody, why aren't we looking to do that?
Why do we have them now?
We might.
Yeah.
And we
I
might
mean, it
make
could-
those
and it
critical
could go
decisions.
that way.
Yeah.
If this keeps happening, I mean, we can't keep doing this over and over again. It's a definition of insanity, and we're not insane people.
Yeah.
Part of our problem is a quarter of our budget is to debt service.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's going to go away in 12 years. But from now till then, we're up against this lovely building we sit in.
Yeah. And that's hard. And sometimes we have to make the harder decisions, and not everyone's going to like it.
Mhm.
And maybe that even means I know personally at my work, we haven't been getting the raises that we should be. Is that something we need to think about going
Right.
forward too? And I know that's a hard decision, and
Yeah,
I
we've
want
looked at
everyone to
that.
be paid well and what they should be paid, but it is something that
Right.
is an easy look at as well.
I think I floated that last year, and what did we say? It was gonna be about $15,000 not to do any increases.
Mhm.
It was they say the proverbial juice wasn't worth the squeeze on that
Some of
one.
these ideas
So-
seem grand to make the numbers match up, but in reality, they don't work,
Right.
right? We
Yeah.
don't give employees raises, we lose valuable employees.
And
that
then
are
we'll have
trained,
turnover and we'll
knowledgeable,
have additional expense
dedicated.
related to that.
Exactly, you have turnover related
Yeah.
with that. And
Yep.
Yeah.
This whole blanket, don't fill a position thing is a good, again, to let the people know that we're gonna be on a hiring freeze, right? But realistically, there's a cost savings realized when there's a 2, 3, 4 month process in hiring that person.
Mhm.
And we all know the police department could lose somebody and maybe not fill it for 6, 7 months. What about public works,
That'll be a challenging
about-
one, yeah.
water and sewer? We're not just talking about bags picking up, we're talking about making sure the roads are plowed for highway safety. Pedestrians are safe.
Make sure the
Right.
water's safe, yeah.
Water safe,
Yeah.
making sure that there's enough officers to respond to a violent domestic once in a while. You know, so I'm okay with a couple month gap and seeing the cost savings from that, but to say we're gonna do a blanket hiring freeze is ludicrous in my opinion, because it just impacts other departments. And you put the nail on the head, we have critical services to provide.
Mhm.
And we are pretty much at bone value already. None of our employees are, are the cream of the crop when it comes to pay. We're not overly staffed in any department. I mean, police department just got the staffing, but the whole police liaison thing was a 70% cost share from the school, right? If we have, I mean, we have to look to cut where we can cut, make money where we can make money, and that's all we can do. I mean, we do have to make changes, but I don't think it's right to say that we're gonna do a blanket, hiring freeze for the year. I think it's a case-by-case basis on the department. Some can absorb it more easily than others. But there's gonna be a cost savings realized, whether it's 3 months to hire the person or they're off for 6 months, what's that cost difference? $8,000, $10,000, you know what I mean? So,
Would it be reasonable to,
solve the structural problem.
right,
No,
Like
it
that's,
doesn't.
and that's where I agree. And we've done that all the years I've been here. Like, oh, well, the police department's under, woo. And it's just not, we should plug that computer in so that it does not.
I forgot to plug it in.
what are your thoughts about maybe putting a task to Devin for 2026 and having him develop a functional list to work from on revenue options?
I mean, I think that we should, and I think we should have a standing agenda item at every meeting.
As
of
painful
what-
it is to talk about cutting expenses,
What are we gonna do
how
to
about
raise
talking
it?
about what else we can maybe think about in
I-
terms of revenue generation?
I am fully supportive of that. I think there ought to be ongoing conversations at every meeting about what can we do to raise revenues. That is 100% a good idea. And I think that that needs to be matched with really hard conversations about what we're doing, like we're having now. And
say-
so
Come look at my whiteboard. I always have revenue ideas on there.
Well, so, but that's a great point, and we don't see the whiteboard
Yeah.
every month. But what we do get is your administrative report. So why not try to flow some of that into the communication you're giving to us? And it doesn't need to be detailed. It just can be the 10,000-foot overview. Like,
Yeah.
we talked about these 4 things for 2026. Here's where we're at on what I'm working on for these 4 things. And it can be literally all contained in one sentence. Like, I'm just shooting from the hip here. I'm thinking like, some of the low hanging fruit, grant writing. Again, we've tasked that kind of stuff. And I would say that we would want to continue focusing on sourcing any additional money we can get. And then additional revenue sources. And you're right. We don't need to let the conversation about safety sticks go away. It needs to continue. And that's just it's a door opening opportunity to eventually look at where we can continue to generate revenue on that. But at the very least, it can be punitive and we can definitely get citations. If it frees up the police department from having to write tickets then. So
And I think that would help us because in a budget cycle, I think it is too hard
and too late.
and too late to truly consider revenue options because they're complicated, big changes.
Constantly
Yeah.
moving.
And I think in a budget cycle, in my mind, a revenue conversation is one you're having all the time. And during the budget is when you decide, okay, these are the revenue choices we've made coming into this budget. Now, how are we going to balance after doing that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
I think that, so I think a I think an ongoing conversation around it. I mean, we have board meetings where sometimes, or series of meetings where we don't talk about the budget for months. And it's kind of the main thing we do,
Yeah, we
is
spend,
approve the
we
budget.
Yeah, and-
responsibly spend the taxpayers'
Yeah.
money, yeah.
And I do think that we can talk a lot more on the revenue side. It doesn't solve this problem today, but I do think it needs to be a cultural change that we follow through.
Yeah, and I think that that's more so what my ideas were geared towards, was just kind of trying to build a culture within the board that there needs to be an underlying knowledge that we are not in balance and haven't been for 5 years. And so every decision we make needs to have that as the baseline. Like,
Much longer than 5.
no, that's all the longer I've been here. I can't speak to any time that I've not. So I've been on the board for 5 years. I know it's not been balanced in 5. So, but yeah, every decision we make, every action we take, I think it needs to have that undercurrent. We are not in balance. Is this helping us get closer to balance or not?
So on the subject of testing out an idea to see how hard it is, how many part-time folks do we have? How many seasonal folks do we
We
have?
have 2 and they're paid for by the room tax.
So the public works,
One is, yeah, so.
one is paid by room tax and the other is supported by the general fund. And are those both in public works
And then we
positions?
have the part-time officer that we just hired too, but he's always had a part-time budget in the police department.
Okay, so I guess
That
my
doesn't
question I'm
affect it.
asking is, do we need part-time?
Uh,
What would it look like if we didn't have part-time? Like these, I mean, if we want to have a real conversation about changing a
what it would
structure
look
here.
like-
That's, yeah,
What it would look like,
so minuscule that it is.
but
That's-
also they're the ones picking up the garbage cans in the summer, watering the flowers, cutting the grass that we don't contract out.
Yeah, I do all that at my house.
Yep.
So I would think that the full-time staff couldn't do that either. So I'm just saying, like, this isn't a I'm too good for that conversation.
It's time. It's more of a time issue.
Yeah, it's just, again, every minute they spend doing that is
Takes
one
away
less
from
minute that they're
something.
gonna do their camera filming of the, you know, the sewer network that we need to do or whatever. Like everything just takes longer.
I guess I challenge for where are we gonna make the structural change, guys?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, who are we, in essence, it seems like we're kind of circling the drain on, who are we not gonna have?
Yeah, well, and
And that,
Like a lot of this, so comes down to projects that we're doing as well.
I was
and-
just gonna bring that
And
up.
cutting, we're putting a brand new park in. Maybe we don't have a brand new park for another couple of years because of budget constraints.
Well, and that's a
we're doing-
systematic,
you know
that's a
what I mean?
systematic process. That's part of the capital improvement plan, which is the 2-year borrow. So those are harder things to undo because of the way that
Yeah,
things are set up. But I get your point, and to your point, the projects that we work on are things that need to, again, be with the budget in mind, which is why we need to be focused on growth.
Mhm.
We need to promote development. We need to encourage people to move to this community and start paying taxes here. We don't want them going to Amory. We don't want them going to St. Croix Falls, to Milltown, to Hudson, to New Richmond, and to what, we want them here. How do we get them here? We build.
Mhm.
So when there's an opportunity to put a development in, we need to be using our resources to promote a development healthy atmosphere here. Because if we grow the pie, everybody pays less. And that's part of it. Because then when we do have to do a short-term borrow, it's less impactful.
I've been talking a lot.
yeah.
And none of this is like board action, like I'm just
Yeah.
encouraging conversation.
Yeah, it
No.
always just comes down to either you raise taxes, which no one wants, or
Cut
we
services, which
cut
no one wants.
services, Which no one wants.
Yeah.
So I feel like
Yeah.
the community as a whole needs to reach out in even, what do you want? What do you want from, there's only so much we can do to, help with not doing that, not, giving them another $150 on their taxes,
Well, I don't want to go too far into the weeds on this topic, just because we could spend 3 hours discussing the
I would
functional
argue we
parts of the
should.
bod. of the
Yeah,
budget.
I would.
Like, I mean, I think
Maybe-
that's
Maybe
where
not 3
I'm at.
hours, but maybe, like you said, every meeting we have, every month we have, even in, in the smaller meetings that we have with like water and sewer and all of that, maybe it needs to be a focus or more of a focus than it has been. Um, So maybe then, just a little time every meeting.
Committees are great. Committees are where most of the action and long investigating should happen. Recommendations from committees should not be taken lightly. Recommendations from committees is where stuff gets vetted. I know the Admin Finance Committee regularly gets items such as the paid parking idea went before them in May. The idea of creating stormwater utility went before them earlier this year too. So
Yeah.
the conversations of how we can create more revenue are happening in committee settings. Also, it allows our board meetings not to be 5 hours long because committees are supposed to kind of vet the information
Get the minutia handled, yeah.
and then go from there and then really iron out any last details. If it gets to the board level, it should be really kind of fleshed out and ironed out at that time too.
I think that our process, like, I hear that point.
I mean, currently
I
right
think
now,
that-
I could write a memo to abolish committees because we're spending 4 hours on meetings discussing, rehashing items that have been talked about ad
Oh.
nauseam at committee levels too.
And I guess my point is, like, I don't know that you're gonna get rid of that aspect. Cause I think we are honestly talking about very difficult decisions. And if admin and finance came out with a recommendation that we wanted to cut something by 2 FTE, there's gonna be a lot of questions about that. For me, I'm not on admin and finance. I wanna know why we're doing this. What other options did you think? Like, I think that I understand the idea behind committees. I think that on a practical level, we have found that we don't follow that. and if it is the case that the board is serious on embarking on a meaningful restructuring of what we're doing, that's a pretty big conversation that I don't know that I'm frankly as willing to export that off to a committee. To talk about the park bench plaque idea, yeah, that can go to a committee. Like, that's a relatively minor thing that a committee can vet, and we come here and we talk about it, we vote on it.
Yeah, I think more
This
so to
is-
what Devin's point was, though, that when an item hits the agenda for the village board, as it relates to finances, money, it should have already been taken care of as far as what that impact would be. We don't need to, at the board level, start talking about what are the names of the 3 contractors and what are the dates that they
I
submitted their
agree with
bids
that.
and what is the
I don't-
anticipated start. Like, that's the kind of minutia that we don't need to do at board level.
Yeah, I
We
agree
can
with
do the
that.
big view, like, what's the impact on the budget? Okay, let's talk about that. Like, that's the kind of stuff
Yep.
that we need to be.
I
looking
agree
at.
with that. I just wanted to
I
lay
really
out
don't want to
that-
know, I don't want to know what the credentials are of the engineer that drew up the plan.
I don't either.
Don't
No.
need that.
No,
And that's the level that we're at now.
To be clear, I don't
Yeah.
think we need that. I think that we need effective oversight, and governance is different than management.
Yeah.
And often, we sometimes eke into management.
Well, you guys are the ones responsible for spending money. You okay it, so. all
Well,
this
and
is-
I hear what you're saying, Brad, but I mean, to remedy this tonight, we'd have to do like one of 3 things. We'd have to cut 4 or 5 full-time positions out of our total staff of 15 or 16. We would have to find a way to shift $400,000 from our general fund to the capital fund and then figure out which projects we're not gonna take from there. Or we implement the parking fees, which could raise 30 to 50,000 like we talked about earlier. Or, I mean, those, to make this significant change at this point right now for this year, that's what we'd have to do. I mean, those are the only choices.
My frustration is that that's where we are, and that we've not been preparing ourselves adequately for exactly that type of decision. That's what's annoying me, is that I agree, Ron. I mean, doing what I'm talking about now it's theoretically possible, I'd argue, but it would be a massive change in direction that would have to happen very quickly. And we've not put in the pre-work to make an informed choice. And so my opposition to this is around that we're not doing it well.
Mhm.
And we do, I mean, I think you've properly laid out the magnitude of the thing that we need to think about. And that is not a one meeting wonder, right? That's a year of talking about stuff. And so I think that is why I'm coming down where I am on this, because I think we have to be a lot better.
I think I mean, I hear you for sure, and I agree. I think for this year though, Brad brought it up too earlier, this is what we have to do, is we have to make this increase for the taxes for 2026. Devin and staff have done the best they could to reduce stuff for now. I think we do need to look at a way to look at capital projects moving forward to see if there's anything we can shift. I know that there's certain rules with that. Put some things off until we can catch up a little bit. That might help too. I know a lot of stuff, you put it off, it's gonna cost more later.
Mhm.
I mean, I get all that, but
But we're in a hole.
And we will remain that way for 12 more years.
Or if levy limits change.
That, I'm encouraged by 12 more years coming
Yeah,
first.
and-
These are the tough choices that were made by the board in 2017 when we decided to go to this 2-year biannual borrow to fund the CIP and to pay off with debt service all the remaining expenses that we were just not in a spot for. So until that debt service is paid off, we will have a very, very tight budget that is very, very difficult to balance. And I want to respect what you're talking about, but I also don't want to go over a bridge that we can't come back through. Like, sometimes if you make difficult choices in staffing, it becomes very difficult to rebuild that. Or you could run the risk of potentially destroying the morale of the entire group, and then you get the death spiral. And that happens sometimes in other communities. I don't know of a single community in Wisconsin that is running a surplus at the moment.
No, everyone, I've been talking to the other administrators in the county, and everyone's
one.
facing the same issue.
So it's not like, yes, our system is broken, okay? We are not in balance. However, that being said, I don't want to put us out on an island where we're not getting it right. Like, we're doing the work. It's just that the formulas are broken, okay? And some of it is out of our control.
Oh yeah, a lot of it is out. And to your question, like I was in Waukesha at a technical college meeting, and they were talking about like they do fire department training at this tech college, and they were talking about like I think Waukesha and Brookfield are talking about combining fire departments
Again, it's cost
because
savings.
they don't have enough. I mean, so it is not.
And these are huge cities.
These are huge municipalities.
Yeah.
So it is not. This is not a problem unique to us by any means, and I think we've had a really good conversation about what we're gonna do better and different, so that next year when we're here, we know.
And we can hold ourselves
what
accountable
we're
for
doing.
choices we're making, yeah.
And I think we have to be that way.
And I would recommend in 27 then, give staff and us a clear definition of how we would like the budget to look. The budget this year, my understanding was to keep status quo, current service levels, and try to make a balanced budget from that. And that's what this budget reflects, is
Yep.
keeping status quo with current staffing levels and current service levels. If you want to see a drastic change, it needs to be explained to us of what drastic services or potential personnel that no longer would need to be. Because we put more than just 1 month in this. This goes back to June that we're staffing.
Yeah,
is
it's the
working
middle
on
of the
it.
year,
Well,
yep.
So with that, unless there's clear directions, it's going to be pretty much that we try to keep the current service levels with the staffing level that we have.
You
And
did
I
what we
get-
asked you to.
No, you did. But my thing about it is like, I am not in the village on the daily, right? I don't see day-to-day operations. And so I think what I'm saying is I don't think we're in a position to be good at saying these two. We need people who know to tell us which positions, if we're in a hypothetical world where positions are the thing we're changing. I'm not qualified to walk into the police department and be like, okay, you and you. That's arbitrary decision making. And so I think my challenge to the staff and to you, Devin, as the administrator, is we need those revenue ideas, which you've been proficient at developing. We also need, I think, what are going to be really difficult recommendations around cuts, because you're the expert that we hire to administer the village. Like, that's, in my view, anyway, as I'll use the example of like me as executive director of family friendly workplaces. If we have a budget hole, it is up to me to figure out what we're going to do to cut the budget hole. The board is not close enough to our daily operations to be able to tell me
The technical
the
side of it, yeah.
technical side of this is what I want to see
Yeah.
changed. And so I think that that's gonna be the challenge here, is I don't know where those things need to be. And it's my job as governance to say, to have the kind of conversation we're having, to talk about options that are brought to us. It's not my job to develop those options. That's management.
You brought up a good point in talking about raising funds and stuff. At some point, and it's a lot of work for Devin or a committee we put together, but you know, those fire departments you were talking about, great big giant fire departments, right? And this is happening all over the state with police departments and fire departments. Heck, we almost made it happen with St. Croix Falls, except for basically a personality conflict or minor disagreements on stuff that we're gonna readdress later. I think we need to look at ways of consolidating services, whether it's with police, whether it's with fire, whether it's
Yeah,
probably
is
not
the-
public works, but
Is the police department thing just dead at this point, or can it be reinvigorated?
There's certain political aspects of it that are unattainable until some things change
Till staffing in St. Croix changes?
or political winds change.
And the other thing would be the fire department. You know, I know that departments in general, police, fire, whoever, are very territorial. It's always been this way we want to keep it. But we have to think outside of the box, right? We have to maybe verify some things, find out who's doing this, find out how they're
Yeah.
doing it, and then maybe independently go out and talk to neighboring departments, say that the policymakers and money people, and say, hey, how can we do this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the
And
overall
but,
tone
like,
that's
the
being
thing
given
that's
here is-
frustrating to me is like, and I'm not coming at you, Devin, but like, it's gonna be hard.
Yeah.
And
That's what I was about to say. The overall tone is,
gonna
you,
be
you pulled
hard.
another rabbit out of your hat again this year, but you're gonna run out of
And we
rabbits.
can't, every time an idea comes
Yeah.
up, we can't have a, ooh,
Right,
like
right,
that's not gonna work.
right.
And you and I've had
Yeah,
conversations
and I would
around
say
this,
in
and
the past, I've reached out to the county about contracting police services. I've reached out to St. Clair Falls about combination. I've reached out to Allied about combining fire services. None of it has been,
So, and that actually brought up something else that I just thought about last week, actually, about budgeting too. Now that we're gonna be full staffed, we may not have the opportunity to explore an overtime budget here. But that doesn't mean that our officers don't have the opportunity to potentially take on some overtime shifts. Contract pay. If they're interested in working on their days off for extra pay for their own families, we can contract our officers' staff out to other municipalities.
That actually was done years ago. Farmington Township had hired Osceola Police Department to run X amount of hours a week traffic enforcement on their town roads.
Think
their
about
city roads.
large events,
And we
police
did that for a
presence
couple
at a
years.
wedding reception, a big concert. You
well,
think about just
Eight-
even short-staffed municipalities that
Yeah.
need coverage. Again, we paid St. Croix Falls to patrol for us. That's an opportunity for a revenue stream. So again, just that was something
And
else that popped up in my
I
mind.
think the other thing too, and this really came to me as I was chewing on the fire department, and I asked plenty of leading questions the last meeting about the fire department. I would argue we are not properly capitalizing the department.
Agreed.
And so not only are we struggling to operate a department, we're not properly maintaining it either. And like, that's where I think some of the challenge is, like, if you were to look to go to someone else, well, they're going to try and properly maintain the thing. So we actually see an increase in what we spend because they're actually doing the things that everyone says they need. And so it's like the troubles run deep that we're in this situation where, I mean, we hear all the time about their tankers and we don't have the money to buy them any. And when you begin to actually think about, and I think it's acute with the fire department because their stuff is so expensive, that we just kick it and hope that the water tank doesn't fail or whatever it is in whatever given day. And so I think that I couldn't agree with you more, Ron, that looking at consolidating operations is 100% a thing we need to look at across every single department to see what we can do. Because as we've said, what we're doing is not working.
Well, and if you look at, there's some municipalities south of us that are sharing resources on their admin staff too. You've got some clerks that work part-time for one municipality, part-time for another. Share, and that's not something I'm saying can or needs to happen with us, but there are opportunities for synergy just about everywhere. And that's why I think it would be important to stay close to the police department merger situation. Like I know you said it's due to political winds, but everybody's feeling the pinch. So it's not like it's,
I think it's important here because we touched on a little bit of everything between maybe making some cuts, some freezes, some consolidation. You know, it's going to take a whole bunch of different things to make this without a lot of hurt. We have to remember it's a balance, all right? We can't cut too much police or public works or utilities because nobody's going to move here, right? You have to have a maintained community with good roads and good water and good sewer and emergency services. Or who's going to come here? And that's our main goal, is to grow, you know? So it's that fine balance that we have to.
And it's a little of everything.
Yep.
A little of everything.
I will tell you this, if you asked me to create a budget right now of all essential services and to provide it, I would give you the exact same budget I'm presenting tonight.
yeah. And I am okay with the way that this is set up. I am, given what we've discussed, because I don't think anybody here should be avoiding that type of conversation, because I remember saying this last year during our budget workshop that was on Halloween. I remember this about how we can't wait until June to start having some of these difficult conversations. We need to be cognizant of this all year long. And in the back of my mind, as we were having these meetings in admin, finance, and police and fire, talking about a potential SRO, I'm like, this is going to add money. Like this is another officer position. It's going to be a shared expense, but it's still expense above what we normally have. So, and it's a small participant of this. I mean, that's the village expense on that. It represents.
I think it's just an example of the process.
It is. It's an example of the choices that are being made and maybe not putting the right emphasis on the baseline before you start having those conversations. Because at this point, you need to give me a super compelling reason to add things in to the budget at this point. Like really, and you can't use, well, there might be 20 fires next year. You can't use, well, we might have a water main break in January. You can't use, whatever. I mean, pick your thing. Like we don't govern from fear, and it's just not a prudent way to govern. We govern from budgets. And so let's talk about what's realistic.
I think to this point, I don't want to amend the village code to add this, but I think we should have, and if I need to bring it up at the end of every meeting, I'll do my best to remember, a standing budget agenda item. And we're either talking about revenue or we're talking about expenses. And I think that we've talked a mean game tonight about like being serious about it, but we need to have a level of accountability there.
Above and beyond the budget report.
Well, I was going to say the
Well,
budget
the
does
budget
appear
report is
in,
listed. We never talk about it. It's on the consent agenda.
it's on the consent agenda.
And
We
we're
can pull it
not
out.
talking about, but we're not talking about a future budget. The budget report is intended to give us a snapshot into our performance relative to the budget we've already approved.
Yeah.
It's not about what are ultimately strategic conversations about future budgets. Like that's a fundamentally different document.
I will
And
say
so
that-
that's where, and I know our meetings are long,
No,
but
I was gonna say, the first 5 months are basically Tanya's working her head off working on the audit is the first 5 months. So we're making sure we're getting accurate information the first 5 months of the year. And then we go to the budget season after all the audit stuff has happened.
well, yeah, but sorry, like we've got to do this. I mean, what do you want from me? Like, I mean,
But I'm saying that's really when it happen when we start really looking on the expenditure side is June. Where I'm always looking at revenue stream throughout the year. And
I like his point, and I think it pairs with what I was talking about. Add some more crunchy data into your admin report
And
every month. Like,
we're here.
you're talking about what's currently happening from a technical standpoint every week or every month, but keep a high level overview of revenues and expenses. Like, hey, just so you know, on the revenue expense front, here's what's going on. We're down a police officer. It's going to take 3 months to hire one. We're going to get a little savings there. Hey, we just had this opportunity come up and it's going to be presented to you next month. It's a possible revenue stream. Those are the kinds of things I think that would be helpful. And it
And-
would keep that conversation going.
I think it would. I guess I'm asking for even a step more than that of like, okay, today we're going to talk about what are the sticks called? The sticks?
Safety
The safety stick. Today we are talking about safety sticks. Why? Because we need to talk about revenue. Next meeting, we're talking about part-time employees. Why? Because we're looking at places to cut. And like, so it's not just, I know that if I want to know where we are, I know that I can go find that information.
Yeah.
It is about so that by the time you're in June and you're starting to talk with department heads about what we're going to do, you've already had 6 months of conversation from this board providing feedback on what we're comfortable with and what we're not comfortable with.
That would play in good, Neil, with what I was suggesting earlier. Like I said, I'd like to see not potential $50,000 grants figured in the budget for revenue, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather be shocked early, make tough decisions, and then get an update in May saying, hey, we have this opportunity where we can recoup $50,000.
Yep.
We don't know for sure. Oh, that's great. That's great news, right? Instead of now we're looking at $400,000 and it might be 490 if we don't get this stuff. So then we're gonna have to make more decisions.
And to that point, can I ask, I think the new one has got cops and IT that moved up in their intergovernmental
Because
revenues.
it's a.
Do we have them secured?
Look, there's no federal government working right now, so we,
So we're budgeting off of the HOPE?
the police one, yeah, right now, yeah.
Yeah, that's
It-
$41,000.
It is an intergovernmental.
That's, I'm not upset about the
Yeah,
category.
we're
I guess,
supposed
to your point, we're doing it right now.
We were supposed to hear back from those grants, however, with the government being in a
But-
shutdown.
But even still, we don't know if we're gonna get it. Like, this is,
Another reason why we want to pare down the general fund borrow, or taken from the general fund to balance the budget. So if we don't get those grants, we're still within our allotted amount that we can take from the.
Yeah, I
general
think
fund.
that, didn't you say in the last workshop that we could go up to like one,
Right.
yeah, which is how much? Yeah, so we could go up to $174,000 in general fund balancing
Still be okay with that.
and not have any impact on our bond rating, our rate for borrowing and whatever. So we
That's
are
why-
currently only projecting 36,000.
So
Like,
I
that's
guess-
very, that's
why
very
we changed-
conservative.
That's why we changed that borrow amount, is to make sure that.
I mean,
we
if
don't
you
get
wanna-
those grants, we can
If you
No,
wanted to look more
fine.
conservative, you could just make that 36,000 number be 126,000
That's-
and then erase the grant.
that's my point. Like, that's. I
That's a
think
methodology.
Exactly what we're talking about,
Yeah.
though,
And at the end
is
of the
that
year,
it's,
next
it,
year,
in this case, what it has
Yep.
done is it has made it harder for us to know actually the maximum exposure the general fund could be asked to support, which is a very relevant thing for us
Yeah.
to know.
Well, I will tell you that 5 years ago, this as presented is conservative compared to what it was 5 years ago.
Very much so.
I'm pleased by the progress.
The
There's still
methodology.
two in there.
The
that
methodology
are
that
not
was
gotten.
used to balance the budget in 2019 and 2020 was off the charts risky. Like off the charts risky, like to the tune of close to $1 million of like projected revenue and
This
anticipated
looks
reduction in
great.
expense.
I hear all
So-
of that, but we're
Well, I
doing,
know. I'm just saying we're at a point now where, I mean, we're making recommendations, and this is not a me thing, it's a board thing. Where I would like to be more conservative on the anticipated revenues, just like we do with the
Yeah,
expenses.
agreed. I agree, but we're not at that point yet. I agree with you in that we want to be more conservative in our methodology, but until we fix the processes that go into that methodology,
Well,
we can't make those changes.
I guess my point is functionally, I would treat those two grants to the methodology point. They ought not be listed.
Then they
because-
would just go to,
And it would be,
fund
it would go
balance.
to the general fund.
Yeah.
But that's
basically
important
what
for
you
us
did,
to
right?
know.
That's basically what you did, you covered that in the fund balance in case we don't get it, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Yes.
So I mean, it's worked in that way, that we're still under the amount that we're allowed to, I'm not, the recommended amount, we're still under the allowable
The
recommended
risk is
amount.
leveraged by the fact that we've reduced the fund balance applied, yeah, so. But if you want it to display a higher number in fund balance applied and remove those from anticipated revenues, that can be done. That just moves us in the conservative direction.
Seems to me like it would be better, but that's
Accurate.
fine. It'd be more accurate because we don't have that money yet.
It would be a nice surprise if we get it. But moving forward, I want to be pleasantly surprised instead of,
Yeah, the hope was to find, when we started this grant, was to know by now. That's why
Yeah.
they've been left there.
Yeah. Is it
Unfortunately.
reasonable, everybody here, to say that that little change should be made?
I'd like it.
I think it's reasonable.
mean,
I think it's more honest about the
It is.
reality
It
of
gives
that,
a
of
bigger-
those two line items.
A better picture
It is, yeah.
as well.
I would entertain a motion to send this to the full board for hearing, after public hearing, right? We go to public hearing first?
Yep.
So it
So
would be approved these numbers as presented or with that change or as? presented?
with that change, yeah. If somebody wants to make that motion to swap those two lines with general fund balance.
I will gladly make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Nicole. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, say no.
No.
4-1.
With the changes?
You
Neil?
don't want the changes?
Well, was
Voted
this the
no
change
to-
or was this the full approval?
This is
No,
to
just with
recommend.
the
Oh, I'm
change.
sorry, just the change? I want an eye on just the change. I thought you were moving the whole thing.
Wait a minute.
Thank you.
We were correcting the,
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
I was confused.
Correcting as
We just want
presented.
I was
clarification. on your vote, Neil.
Yeah, we don't vote to approve this budget yet till after
That's-
public hearing.
Why I
So,
was confused.
No. Yeah, that changes.
It's been a 14, 15-hour day.
Yeah, and to tell you, these grants, I applied for the COP one in June and the cybersecurity one in July, and we were supposed to hear by now.
Yeah, okay. Okay, that covers that.
Can I ask one more question?
Of course.
Street operating permits? I think we went from 2,000 to 7,000.
Yep, we raised fees
When did we do that?
last year.
Fee structure when it
Okay,
was
and we
introduced
just
for
didn't
25.
change it in the initial draft, or, I guess I was just curious. Because the initial one, the October 2nd budget that we were presented with had street operating permits, street opening permits at 2,000. And now they're at 7? So I just noticed
If
that it
if
had
anything, it was
gone
just,
up.
we reminded that we increased them at,
Increase that yeah, it was probably just missed on the first one.
yeah, it's something we caught looking through it, when looking through revenues, last month internally, that we noticed like, oh, we raised fees last year because we were way over where anticipated was because of the fee raise.
Okay.
So it was just an internal change.
Good catch. I didn't see that.
I went line by line.
Gosh.
I saw it.
Not in the whole thing, just on the
I
front.
was gonna
side.
see if, he
Oh,
Oh, got it.
Also tears the shirts from his
In-
big
in the-
muscles.
Unless there's some big, unless there's a big change from budget to budget, I probably won't bring it up because a lot of the times it's just us correcting an error that we found.
Just like to know. Thank you.
The floor is yours for agenda item 4,
What's it, future
future
agenda?
agenda items, and I think you,
Talk about our budget.
I think you've stressed that pretty well. I don't have anything, Ron. Arvin?
Nope. I do have
Nicole?
one thing, sorry.
Oh, yes.
I know it's been gloom and doom, but I want, appreciate the work that staff, that Tanya and Carrie and Devin have done.
Mhm.
Here.
For sure.
It's
Absolutely.
not done yet, so work your magic and make it look good.
You're bailing water out of a boat with a teaspoon and you're doing a good job with it, so.
We complain a lot. and
The hole
we-
is this big and the
Yeah.
teaspoon is just.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we complain a lot, and have a lot of ideas, and it's lost sometimes that the work that you guys do, so we appreciate it.
I agree. I agree.
Good point. Thank you. Arvin? Nothing?
Nothing further.
Nothing except ditto to that, to Ron, because it is appreciated. You guys do a lot of hard work, make a lot of hard decisions before it even comes to here, so.
I have two things. Tuesday, we're going to have at 5:00 an information session on the Impact 7 project
Got it.
before the planning commission meeting,
When is it? 5?
5.
Okay.
And then the planning commission meeting, they're doing their concept
Okay.
to the planning commission. So that's why we're doing it early. at the early time because they're already going to be here for the planning commission meeting. But that's going to be a public input meeting, I mean, a public learning meeting for the public at a whole to what the Impacts Haven project really is. And then on November 13th at 6 o'clock, I believe, there's going to be a public input or public learning meeting about the stormwater utility being created.
Okay.
So both of those will be up on the website. The Impact 7 already is up there with the agenda and the slideshow presentation. So that should be, I'll forward you all the information tomorrow, my update.
Nothing else to share with the DNR
Good news today, they're gonna be allowed to do co-mingled abatement, so
and save recycled materials?
as long as it's asbestos free,
And who's certifying the asbestos freeness of it?
not the village.
The approved
Approved.
inspector on
Yeah.
site? Okay, good. All right, well, I look forward to seeing trees being removed very soon then. That was the first part, was removing vegetation, and then,
I just got that email at about 4:10 today.
Not something you hear the village president of Tree City say very often.
yeah,
So glad they're going away.
The trees that are growing through the building are going away.
yeah, right, yeah, the ones coming up out of the floor, yeah. Great, forward that to me if
I
you
did,
wouldn't.
I did already.
Perfect, thank you. Awesome. Okay, that's it. We are adjourned at 7:15. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good discussion. Dan, by the way, was it? He's like, we should absolutely talk about those.